Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the next edition of Rodney Veals Inspired by Live with an audience here at the Dayton Wiley Gallery at Gather by Ghostlight. Thank you to the Epic Committee, and thank you to all of you wonderful people for braving the cold to be here. Super excited. And the fact that this is a rescheduled podcast conversation because the streets of Dayton were literally on fire. So we now know that the streets of Dayton are hot. So it's a really exciting thing. But we rescheduled, and Brandon's been so gracious to be here. And so here's the introduction. Brandon Ragland is the newest artistic director of the Dayton Ballet as a part of the Dayton Performing Arts Alliance. He is, in my humble opinion, the most awesome, charismatic, kindest, most talented, intelligent, witty, sophisticated man.
I did not pay him to say that.
I am a fan. I am such a fan. And full disclosure, I did serve on the search committee that ultimately selected him for the position to be here. And I'm so grateful for that journey and experience of getting you here. And we'll talk about that a little bit in the podcast. But without further ado, the awesome Brandon Ragland. So Brandon, this is your life kind of a deal. So one of the things I want to talk to you about is let's go back in the very beginning. Was ballet the thing you thought you were going to do when you were a little boy?
Not at all.
What was on your schedule? I'm kind of curious.
So I was very much involved in basketball and soccer and Boy Scouts as a young kid. And I stayed pretty busy between my church activities, basketball, soccer, gymnastics. But I always danced socially, and all of my friends, we always got together and did the latest line dances, the latest pop dances, all of that stuff. So that movement has always been a part of my life. When I started getting introduced to dance through church, through liturgical ministry, I wasn't quite sure what that meant. I just knew that it was movement, and I liked doing it. So my first dance teacher was over that ministry, and she kind of introduced me to movement. And, of course, because I was a boy, she was very excited. She's like, "Are you here to try out?" And I said, "I guess." And I was actually at church for a Boy Scout meeting that we had gotten out early.
We're going to talk about that.
And I went downstairs and I heard this music and I saw these dancers dancing, and I thought, well, I can do that, and started doing it. And my mom came downstairs. I mean, to this day, I have her reenact the face because she was a little bit in awe and in shock and in embarrassment because I was somewhere where I wasn't supposed to be. So from there, it started to, my first dance teacher, Jackie Lockhart, started to cultivate taking me to different dance workshops, the International Association of Blacks in Dance, the Black College Dance Exchange. She started introducing me to not only commercial dance with hip hop and then concert dance and traditional dance. So I started taking African, modern, jazz, ballet. And then when I started to get more involved in that and wanting to do more dance training, because I had made in my mind that I was going to be a backup dancer for Janet Jackson. So that's where I
we all had that.
Yeah, that's where I could probably still do all of the Velvet Rope Tour choreography, because that's what I was
I'm going to hold you to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And so I was really looking toward the commercial dance, maybe modern, growing up watching Dance Theater of Harlem and Ailey. I had started to aspire to be a part of those companies, but I knew that I needed more technique and training. So I went to a school in, because I'm from Birmingham, Alabama, and there's a school there called the Alabama School of Fine Arts, and it has a math and science component there. It's considered a fine art. So that's where my parents wanted me to go to school for high school, but they wanted me to go for math and science.
Oh, that typical
So I went,
hedging your bets.
Yeah, I went there for math and science, but I would sneak away during my study halls. I'm saying this live on the radio.
Are you sharing
Sorry,
things
Mom.
with your mom? Or okay.
So I would sneak away from study hall to go watch the dance classes, and kind of the same thing. I would be peeking through the window, and then finally one of the dance teachers said, "Do you want to come in and watch?" So then me coming in to watch turned into me getting up to do like warm up with them, turned into taking the whole class, and ended up switching my concentration to dance. So that's when I really started taking the serious ballet training and technique, and from there I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the athleticism. I fell in love with the partnering aspect of it. I mean, it's much harder than what it looks like, and that was very intriguing to me. So then I had, going through high school, I made the decision, okay, I want to be a dancer. And then, every parent says, well, then what else are you going to have to fall back on? So we went through the whole college struggle. I didn't want to go to college. I wanted to try to go straight into a company. Okay. They were like, absolutely not. So we made a compromise, and I ended up graduating from Butler University with a degree in dance arts administration, because I said, well, I know that I'm going to teach. That's always been a part of what I've wanted to do with dance is teach. But who knows? Maybe I want to open my own studio or run my own company. So I'll take these business classes while I'm in college. That's why I chose arts administration. And then upon graduating, I danced with Alabama Ballet. I went back home, danced with Alabama Ballet for 3 years, and then went to Louisville and danced there as a leading dancer for 13 years. And then upon retiring from the stage, I had been teaching a while. I had been choreographing. I had started to choreograph different ballets, and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I said, well, I've always wanted to be an artistic director. That was like the top. That was like
dream,
the top,
the dream.
But historically, to get to that step, you have to follow several different smaller ones. So I had my plan, and the year that I was retiring, all of a sudden there was a shift, which I'm sure we'll talk about.
Oh,
a
absolutely.
shift in directorships of ballet companies. There was like a mass exodus of directors that had been in places for a long time, and there were all these openings popping up. And I said, well, I kind of want to get the experience of what that process is like. What are consulting companies, what are boards and organizations looking for when they select an artistic director? So I said, why not? I have this arts administration experience. I have teaching experience. I have choreographic experience. So I decided to put my name in the hat for several places, and got a bunch of no's. No, thank you. We need someone with more experience. You're not quite what we're looking for, which is what you're used to as an artist, or, So then I get a text message from a friend of mine who used to dance at Dayton Ballet, and I danced with him in Louisville. And he said, Dayton Ballet is looking for a new artistic director. And this was towards the tail end of my interview process. So I had already decided, okay, I've learned, I've got an idea. Let me just kind of put that pipe dream aside. And I looked online, and it had not been announced on the website yet. So I just emailed info at DaytonPerformingArts.org. I said, I know it hasn't been announced yet, but I heard that you were looking for an artistic director. Please let me know who to send my information to. And at the time, that email went to Patrick Nugent, and he responded, "Yes, we are. And it's me that you send the information to. I have it, and we will get back to you shortly." Right. But what I don't know if I did tell you, Rodney, is
I'm getting to learn some things. Okay.
The same consulting company that DPAA used, I had submitted my materials to them through other dance companies they were with, and they actually at the same time reached out to me and said, "Have you applied to, we think this would be a good fit for you." So
the universe.
And I didn't know much about Dayton, and I knew about Dayton Ballet, but I didn't know the history and the richness of it that I do now. So of course, my mind goes, well, what is in Dayton? And I said the same thing about Louisville too when I moved there.
And that is a legitimate question. That is absolutely legitimate question. Yeah.
So when I got here and went through the interview process, I fell in love with the organization and its mission, the people, the search committee, and here I am. In my second season.
And I can say this from my experience. We fell in love with you. and I'm saying this publicly, but I remember distinctly after your second interview with us, when you came to Dayton, you left the room, and we all turned into like little school kids and went, oh my God, he's so awesome. We're like, wait, we still have 3 more interviews to go through. So we knew, you had made an impression, and it was such a delightful impression. It was such a positive, energetic, you had a vision, we were all these things. And so let's step it back, because, one of the things when we talk about leadership, and especially leadership in dance companies and arts organizations, not traditionally run by people of color. Let us be very clear about that. That is always the elephant in the room. And so let's talk about your desire to wanting to be an artistic director as a person of color. What do you feel like did you see people that represented you in leadership? What inspired that notion that I want to be that leader in charge? Because
that's a very good question. I did not at the time when I started having the idea of wanting or having that desire to be an artistic director. There weren't many people of color in those types of positions. As I got older and as I got into the professional industry and got into ballet companies, you start to see and you start to build a network of friends, and I know so and so, they're the rehearsal director here, or so and so is the assistant director here, and you begin to see that there is a large scope there, but it was far and few in between to get those experiences, and I had not seen someone at that level as artistic director. It's really hard to put into words, but something in me has always been, I can do that. I want to do that, and I can do that. And my parents, I was very fortunate and blessed that my parents always instilled in me that you can do anything you put your mind to. So even when I veered off to not being the accountant or the doctor that
I'm so glad you're not an accountant. Really am.
I'm glad too. They instilled in me that putting in the work and pursuing the dream and being the best at it. So even though I didn't see much representation, I always had their support. And then I was also blessed to have the support of my teachers, my coaches, my mentors, those that were really valuable in my training process were valuable to me because they said, okay, if your goal is to dance with American Ballet Theater, let's train you and get you there. Let's set you up an audition. They never made me feel like I couldn't. Now, other people did, But my support system of teachers and coaches and family and friends, they were always behind me. So I've always had that support system to kind of push me through. So when that decision I made within myself to say, hey, I want to be an artistic director, everybody was like, all right, let's go. Let's do it. Like, you got to have a vision. You have to have this. One of my mentors, he sat me down as an former artistic director himself and helped me through that process to flush out what kind of company Brandon Ragland wants to run. Not me trying to fit into a company, but me bringing my vision to an organization's table and figuring out if it's a fit. And that was the mind changing for me, because someone was telling me I can have ownership of this thing and not having to conform to something else.
Squeeze you into the pre-described notion of what a dance leader looks like, an artistic leader, which is really important, because I feel like we have to have the diversity of leadership. We have to have the diversity of thought. We have the diversity of experiences. And I think there's something, and we're going to jump around a little bit, because Brandon, it was so funny, because once Brandon was here, it was like I had a running buddy. So it was like, I'm like, yes, Brandon's here, let's have these conversations. Because as someone who danced, and I danced at Dayton Ballet, I had that one mentor, and that was Gregory Robinson. And Kevin Ward also. I really had more than one. It was Kevin Ward at Dayton Contemporary Dance Company. And we had an opportunity a couple months ago, in October. It was an event sponsored by Ohio Dance. I'm board president, and you know how that works. And so it was about dancing the American dream. But the panel was Brandon, Gregory Robinson, and Kevin Ward, and myself. And there are 4 African-American men at these different stages of their lives, generationally, in a leadership capacity in their art form. We didn't realize it until we sat down. And we looked at each other and went, holy crap. Yeah. Wow. And it just makes your heart sing. And so, they planted seeds of their excellence. And I remember Greg teaching me pas de bourrée over and under, because he dismissed everyone in class and made me do it for 45 minutes. I will still remember that as a thing to this day, because he wanted me to be an excellent dancer. He says, no excuses. If you don't know how to do something, you're going to learn how to do it. Right. You're going to push yourself. And so mentorship matters. So what did you take from that, other than I took it from like the aha moment, but what did you take from that meeting of the collective generational minds, so to speak?
Well, we talk about diversity and how representation matters on all aspects and all spectrums and perspectives, and being there and just me being able to nerd out with you all about classical ballet.
Yeah,
like that in and of itself.
We nerded out.
And you can have anyone that has danced with me longer than 5 minutes, or any of my friends, you can ask them. I am what we call a complete bunhead. I love the classics. I love classical ballet. I love contemporary. I love it all, but I dance history, ballet history. Ballet pedagogy, teaching it, that's the conversations that I love having. How do you teach something? How do you program? How do you coach things? You can coach things different ways. I am being able to talk, especially with Greg, about that, and just us going back and forth is amazing. And again, you're talking about planting those seeds and also learning that Greg is from Alabama and I'm from Alabama. And so those seeds, I knew exactly where he danced, where the origins of, UAB Ballet and Ballet Alabama, and he was a part of that. So now I'm meeting someone that looks like me, that was a part of something where I'm from, that I took that I was the result of his hard work, if that makes sense. And that for me was seeing it live in person and getting to converse with him it's like we talk about legacy, right? I'm stepping literally in footprints of people that have gone before me to clear a pathway, and it makes your desire, it makes your vision, it makes your goals clearer, because you see a pathway, and it's not always easy, and it's not always simple. No, but if you know that someone has gone through it and you're able to connect with them, they will help you get through that process.
Yeah, and that was my experience with Greg, because Greg is one of the most phenomenal choreographers. He just his musicality, and I just sat there in awe watching him create this movement. Yeah. My favorite ballet of his is Sweet Aretha, and he did it.
Someone else has mentioned that.
Yeah, he created a ballet to music from Aretha Franklin, and it was so stunning. No boys, wah! I was like, dang nabbit, can I dance in this? And I can't. I'm like, oh, and I'm watching, like, they're so lucky. They're girls. They're so lucky. But realizing that's what I kind of wanted to do. I wanted to craft movement. I wanted to create movement in space, because I was a visual artist. I started, that was my head, the bats, that and political science. That made my parents very happy, by the way. But they were very confused when I said, no, I'm dancing ballet. I think your mom probably had the same reaction my mom did, that look of like, these three different reactions, and it just gets into concern. Yeah. So kind of curious about now, like, that process. You went through the process of us interviewing you, and you taught a class with the dancers, and now you're here. I'm very curious, because we have not talked about in a minute, because you've been super busy. How's it going? How do you see what the work you're doing? How do you feel about the work that you're doing? Not to put you on the spot in front of your boss, but that's okay.
No, I feel great about the work that I'm doing. It's hard work.
It is.
It's constant work. It's fulfilling work. It's frustrating work. Tough work. And it's been a learning curve for me, because I'm again fortunate that I was able to make this leap into my dream job, but that also comes with a learning curve, and there is a lot that I'm learning. There's a lot of pitfall, blind spots that I see, and that's also the beautiful thing too, because there are some things that that I didn't do quite as well last year that I'm like on top of this year, but then you're learning other things and deadlines to meet and multiple things to think about, and a school that you have to oversee, and the learning and community, and it's not just the thing about being an artistic director is so much of it is the programming, and you're in charge of the artistic product, but that artistic product spans like so many different directions. And what I'm learning, that learning curve, is getting your brain to be in those different spaces at any given time. Right. Because it's not like you have the convenience to say, okay, now I can think about this. Now I can think about this. No, it's like I have to think about this and that. Don't forget about this behind me. Oh, and the thing next week. Oh, and the thing 2 years from now. We have to start talking about it now. There's so much administrative things as well, which I'm like, thank God I actually paid attention in Arts Administration 101 after rehearsals all day, because now it makes life a little easier. It makes life a little easier. So it's, oh my God. Some things are trial by fire, but I have the support of friends and colleagues that have been very helpful to me in the process. So when I don't understand something or need to learn how to formulate a spreadsheet, I can do it pretty quickly because someone can help me out. And then I got it after that.
After you get that one, how to make an Excel spreadsheet is like a thing.
Well, and that's the thing about dancers too, because I always say dancers make the best employees, because we're so used in our training to be able to learn something, and then we pretty much have to show that or implement those corrections and critiques very quickly. So usually in any type of work setting, if we need to learn something, then our brains are wired through our training to be able to say, okay, I have to do that. I'll do that for next time, and I can implement it pretty quickly. So that is also why I tell the students that we have that dance, even if you're not a professional dancer, that is going to help you in all aspects of life. And I can say it even more confidently now, being an artistic director and an arts administrator, because you're having to learn things, and you don't really have the time, so to speak. I don't have a year to get it right. It's some things, like I don't have a year to not mess up the budget. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like I can't.
'Cause those bills
I have
get
to.
paid.
Right,
Yeah,
and
those
you
bills
have
get
to.
paid.
You
Right.
have to capture those things pretty quickly and learn. Oh, okay. I didn't plan that out correctly, but I have to make sure the next time we do it that it's right.
Copious notes, I'm telling you. And I'm glad you said that about dancers and that ability, because I think that shocks people, because that was one of the things when I took the job I have now. They were shocked that I will just keep working until I get it right.
Yeah.
And I won't stop.
Yeah.
And they're like, and that was actually said to me. I was like, are you prepared to work harder than the people that you are working with? I said, it's not my problem. It's not. I love them dearly. They're awesome people. It's not my problem. And so, but I want to enhance what we do. So do you think that also helps I feel like dance helps us navigate those personal relationships with people.
Absolutely.
In a different way.
Absolutely.
Like, 'cause a lot of people come in with agendas, but dancers were like, we got to make this work. There's nothing worse.
It's a part of how we train. And I always tell dancers too, that it's also very similar to playing sports when you're with a team. Like when you're working and when you're training with a team, it's no different. I think with dance, where the added benefit is that when you get into the professional realm, you constantly have to be in vulnerable and open positions in choreography, in working with the choreographer. And ballet is like a family, because you don't necessarily get to choose all members of your family, right? Like, and it's the same with a company. Like as a dancer, I don't get to pick which dancers I want. Like we are selected, and we have to work together. And it's like a family where sometimes you're going to get irritated. You're not going to see eye to eye. You're going to argue at one moment. But you have to sort those things out. And at the end of the day, there's a product that has to be made, and we have to make the product. Right. So that translates into the workforce, where it's like you have to get things done.
Diplomacy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the diplomacy.
Yeah.
Right? That was
That's
one of the things. That was the thing that surprised me the most, that I had to navigate. Mm-hmm. That I was not anticipating that, because I was coming into the dance world from the visual arts background, which is, as a visual artist, you're usually working by yourself, and so it's a very solitary. But then you get thrust into this world of it.
Right.
It matters that the person playing the piano likes you, because they could really mess you up with tempos. I found that out real quick.
I mean, diplomacy is a really good word to use in that instance, and respect, because it's not really about always liking what you're having to do, but if you have respect for the art form, or respect for whatever it is that you do, then you're gonna make and put your best foot forward to make that happen, because it's about respect for the art form. Yeah. In my case, and it's always very interesting, because as we navigate the space outside of the studio that I'm learning, all of that matters as well. Wow. It's so much of my job is outside of the studio, sometimes more than I would like it to be, but it's necessary, because it's about creating relationships with the community in which the organization resides. We talk about bringing bringing people into the family, and that's what that means is being able to be forward facing, which is not necessarily in my nature. I know everyone's like, you're a dancer, you dance on stage. Like, there's like a fourth wall there.
Right.
But for people to...
Lights and then...
Yeah.
And you're all in the dark. And it was like, thank God. You know,
yeah. But
absolutely, I get it.
This position requires getting out there and being in the community, and then especially being in a place that I'm not very familiar with. That was something that I knew I had to learn fairly quickly.
Right.
And
yeah.
when I arrived, I told Patrick that, you know, take me wherever you want me to go, to talk to whoever I need to talk to be a part of whatever I need to be a part of. And he took my word for it. So I think that those type of learning situations and being a dancer, to be able to adapt and implement quickly, has really helped and been a benefit for me. Patrick's told this story too, but it goes to the mindset of a dancer. When I first got to the job, he said, Brandon, I would like for you to write me, you know, a 3 to 5 year plan, some goals, and what you want to get accomplished in the first 90 days, in the first year, in the first 3 to 5 years. I said, okay. And in my head, I'm thinking, oh, he needs this pretty quickly because maybe he needs it for something. And I had it to him. I had it to him by the end of the day that day. But also a big part of that. That's the thing
about Brandon. That's what I love about you. It's like you were like, I'm getting this. I'm like, oh yeah.
But a part of that is too, the other level of that is that I had a mentor who was guiding me to think that way already, so that when someone said, well, what is your 3 to 5 year plan? I could, like an elevator pitch, like it's ready.
I'm Bonnie Miles, Membership Coordinator of CET. Thank you for listening to Rodney Veal's Inspired By. This podcast is a production of CET and ThinkTV, 2 local PBS stations. As PBS stations, the work we do online, on air, and in the community is supported by listeners like you. If you're enjoying the show and would like to support our work, please consider becoming a member at cetconnect.org or thinktv.org. Plus, when you sign up to donate at least $5 a month, you'll get access to special members-only streaming videos on the PBS app through Passport. Learn more at cetconnect.org or thinktv.org.
If you're enjoying this conversation, The Art Show, also hosted by Rodney Veal, is available to stream anytime from anywhere on YouTube or the PBS app.
And I can say that from the interview process. That's what got us all giddy like school kids. Once you left the room, we were like, he has a plan. He has a vision. It was like, it was so clear and it was so distinct. And it was, I found that utterly like shocking and refreshing, you know, because you're very youthful in appearance. I will say that as someone who's turning 60, that it belied this notion of like, oh no, don't be fooled by the facade. There's a lot there. And you had a really creative vision too. And you kind of, I do have this question because we were interviewing you. We had an interview the first day, and it was very formal. And we did our things, and you worked with the dancers, and we had our exit interview on the second day. I felt in my mind that you went from the first day, and you must have had a come to Jesus, Buddha, Allah moment, and you came up with something. It was already fabulous, but then it went to the next level. Did you kind of, something just click in you? Like you were like, oh.
Well, this was the last.
I get to ask that question. I'm so happy I get to ask this.
This was the last interview process that I had gone through, that I was going through. Okay. You know, like I had in my mind that if this didn't work out, I knew that I was going to pursue full-time choreography and teaching at the Louisville Ballet School. So I think it was I remember waking up and just, you know, kind of saying, put it all out there, and there was a realization of the work that I had put into it, the support that I have from my friends and colleagues, and it just kind of helped push me to say, you know what, I am capable of doing this, and even if it may not be the right time, but in my mind, I know it's going to happen, and that's what I went into that kind of last interview with, kind of like, okay, I put it all out there, lay my cards out, and I'm okay walking away if it doesn't work out, because I know it will sooner or later.
I love that. And that's that.
Now, mind you, I had to keep reminding myself that, because if you remember from that last interview process to when I was offered the job was
time.
You know,
there was
it was needed, because
we had 3 more people to interview. We really did have another.
So it was like an audition where you just have to like sit and wait and keep telling yourself, well, you know, if it doesn't work out, that's okay. But secretly, you're like, oh my god, I just need to know something.
And I'm sorry, I hope we didn't torture you too long.
That's normal torture. That's
normal torture. Okay. I'm glad it was a normal torture. So I have this secret. So you've, like you said, you've been here. I know you've talked about. Because if anyone has had a chance, he had this season was Coppelia, and I know you had talked about that. Talk to me about, is that your favorite ballet? I think we talked about this.
One of my surprisingly favorite ballets.
Okay, why? Why is this surprisingly one of your favorites? Because it's, you know,
the story. Like once you dive into it, it's such a good story. It's funny. Like there aren't very many comedic ballets. So the version that we brought to Dayton was originally done in Louisville by Robert Curran, who was the former director there, and it was his first full length that he choreographed. I mean, after Petipa and Dalib, and I played Franz, so I got to be a part of that process and the storytelling and the funny moments. And so it just grew to be one of those ballets that, because I was there at the beginning of that particular production, I loved it. Yeah, it has a special place in my heart, because it was his first official year, because he came, and then his first year, the season was already planned, as it's pretty standard in ballet companies. So that next season was his fully programmed season, and we were doing Coppelia, and so it was like a fresh start for both of us in that sense. So it was a really unique opportunity, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun. So even bringing it here, memories of how that process was going, and seeing Robert work with the dancers, and the funny moments and the aha moments they were having with him, I remember. And so Coppelia's always been, since that moment, one of my favorites that I've performed for sure. So
in that process, you touched on this in memory. A lot of times, I don't know if it's different now, because I'm aging myself, but when we were reconstructing ballets, it was always someone who there wasn't a video machine. There wasn't a videotape. They were teaching us choreography from memory.
Right.
Was Robert doing that same thing? Was he like, let me refer to the tape, or was he going?
At the beginning.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious about that process now.
The preparation, he notated a lot of things. And he has an impeccable memory when it comes to choreography. And so he referenced the video before he would get to the studio, but most of the time he was doing it from memory or from his notes that he would take.
It's a real special skill. I mean, it's like, and I just remember being taught by people who like.
Yeah. Well, also because it's in your body, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
It
never leaves your body.
He was a principal dancer at Australian Ballet for 13 or 14 years. So he's danced those ballets probably a bajillion times. So some of that just never leaves your body.
Right.
Even when he was rehearsing, I remember things as he was, because I helped stage some of the Franz, who is the lead male dancer, some of his material I went ahead and taught, And it was just, I remember certain things in my body, and you recall that and you reference the video. But a lot of things that are, when you go through the process like that, like where you're in it and you're rehearsing it over and over again, it just sometimes comes from muscle memory.
Yeah, it really does. And it never leaves you. I mean, it really doesn't. I remember one of the things I'm kind of curious about with that process, because you and your resume, because I did some digging, because you've performed in Balanchine Works, and I've had that experience as well of dancing in Balanchine Works. I was always amazed by the people that restaged Balanchine Works, that they were really that conversation about muscle memory. Talk about why Balanchine's work is so important in the ballet canon, because I don't think a lot of people see ballet, they go Nutcracker, they think, oh, it's the tutus, but there's something very different about Balanchine's role in ballet.
Well, George Balanchine, here's my nerd out moment.
Nerding out, I love it. There we go.
George Balanchine is, I mean, arguably, but most definitely one of the American pioneer choreographers. I mean, he created what is now New York City Ballet, but the School of American Ballet is what we consider the American approach to ballet technique. So, quick history, you have your Vaganova technique, you have your Cicchetti, you have your Royal Academy. Those are all Russian, Italian, Danish, and British. And Balanchine came from Russia, and he loved American culture and wanted to start a school here, which, if you think about most companies in America, they all started with the school. Dayton Ballet came from the school. So that was a very important thing to him. So he was known for his choreography, because it was he took the production out of it, which is very challenging, but he what we would say stripped down the costumes. A lot of his costumes are very simple, but when you think about it, when you're starting a school or when you're starting a business or whatever, it's slim trimmings, right?
There's not a lot of money.
So there, with a lot of Balanchine Works, there aren't a lot of sets and costumes. Definitely not a lot of sets. And he is considered the American choreographer because of the quickness of the footwork, of the musicality, very musical. And so when Balanchine created these ballets, I mean, he has over 100 ballets, and you have to be a licensed stager to stage them. Mm-hmm. And it's always interesting because different stagers can stage the same ballet and they remember something different that they call him Mr. B, that Mr. Balanchine said to them. And it can be both valid, but the one thing that doesn't change is the musicality and the approach to the footwork and the technique of it, which is still challenging 90 years later. I think SAB just celebrated their 90th birthday and City Ballet's 75th birthday. So 75 years later, those ballets that he choreographed are still some of the hardest and most rewarding for the dancers.
And I think rewarding for the audience as well. And
because it's pure movement. It's just all about the movement. There's no set. There's no, huge costume. It's literally he made dancers
make the music come alive.
Movement through music to then be felt through the audience, which is why a lot of dancers love dancing that.
And I remember what was really interesting at the Dayton Ballet School. If you ever get a chance to go in the building, in the space, is the portrait still? Mm-hmm. There is a photograph of George Balanchine to the Schwartz sisters saying, "Thank you for keeping dance alive in the region." Mm-hmm. So he was here. He was in Dayton, Ohio. He was encouraging these two pioneering women. And the Dayton Ballet is actually older than New York City Ballet, folks. It is actually really older. So it's this notion of Americana, and it's like of the companies. I got the impression he was his influence it was another example, like, just like Greg and Kevin, he planted a seed that we are living under the shade of.
Right.
And so you're here, and I'm kind of curious, what was your favorite balancing ballet? Because I know what my favorite is. Oh, put you on the spot, because I really want to I'm kind of curious. It's 100, by the way. Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay, wait, I have to do, like, to perform or just period?
Your choice. Either or.
Okay.
Or both. I'll take a both.
One, my favorite that I have performed, if I had to pick one, is square dance.
Oh.
I performed that Robert's first season as well. That was my first. At Louisville, that was my first principal role in a Balanchine ballet. Although I have Serenade is always a favorite, which is funny because there's very few male parts in that, but I've gotten to dance all of those roles at different points. So Serenade holds a special place. And then I'm a sucker for Jules. That's probably my favorite.
Oh, okay. Huh. My personal favorite. I've never performed it. I learned it. I learned it as because I was, that's the way it was cast is Concerto Barocco.
Oh, okay.
Concerto is one of my favorite ballets. It is. To me, I was like, oh, that double violin concerto is.
Well, and a lot of it is so music. Yeah,
it's so beautiful.
And he has influenced
there's only
how I
only guy in
choreographed.
that ballet.
Yeah,
there's only one guy in that ballet,
and he comes in, literally partners and leaves.
His only role is to support the girls. Yeah. And but I love its visual, and I love it. I know that we, bringing Balanchine into the rep. I'm asking this question, even though it's going to podcast. What's your ideal Balanchine work to incorporate into the Dayton Ballet repertoire now?
Oh man, I have so many. I mean, number one, just so you all as a community know the treasure that you have here. The dancers the unique thing I always say about dance companies is that's a little bit different from an orchestra or an opera, is that most of the time the dancers plant roots where they perform. So all of the dancers are here year round and they set roots here. Several dancers have families here. They have decided to make their lives here, and they are truly some talented artists. The level of artists that you all have in this community is top tier. And of course, I would say that being biased, but I've heard that from stagers that have come here. Robert, when he was here, him being my former boss, now me kind of being his boss, was always interesting. And it was great, but, he is someone that, he was in Australian ballet, so and he knows what good dance looks like. And to see him work with the dancers and
get excited
and be so complimentary, and he loved working with them, and they just really soared. So there's really no limit to what the potential here that we can do. So in terms of Balanchine, there's.
I'm just throwing it out there.
There's so many. I have so many ideas. I would love to see this company do emeralds. I think it would be
fun.
Beautiful. Concerto Barocco is another one. Square dance is another one because there's a lot of energy within the dancers here right now.
I'm all excited about these ballets. It's just like I said, we nerd out on this notion of that.
Yeah.
So you did work with one of my favorite choreographers with the ballet, Dayton Ballet, and that was Adam Hoagland.
Oh yeah.
Oh folks, please bring him back.
Adam is a good friend of mine, and there's, another, when you talk about choreographers that you've worked with as dancers and respected and loved, for me to be able to bring one of my favorite works of his here and to see him work with the dancers and see them grow in that process was pretty amazing. And there are several. as I say, several Hoagland ballets that are on my list. So.
See, I'm excited about that stuff. That's what I'm really excited about, because I know that you care so much that he's not going to just settle, that you're not going to just settle for anything on the company and for our community. You're really going to push us. And I'm hoping that the audiences, I feel like the audiences have embraced the fact that you've pushed us.
They've been so supportive
of these changes.
Is this going so far?
Yeah, this journey. And so how does it feel? I have to ask this question. How does it feel to have your dream job?
It feels amazing. With all the, I can't really complain, because the things that I get to nerd out about, I nerd out about them. I mean, to be able to look at an artistic plan and be a part of that process, to talk to these choreographers. I mean, to be on a Dance USA call with other artistic directors that you've literally watched dance growing up, and they call you by name and tell you, congratulations, is there anything I can help you with? And you're looking at the screen like, I've seen several videos of you in Concerto Barocco or Siegfried and Swan Lake, and here you are telling me, like, oh, give me a call. Here's my phone number.
Brandon, well done. It's like, my name.
Yeah. It's sometimes I know it sounds, I don't want to make light of the job, but sometimes it is a dream, because it's something that I was aspiring to be, but didn't think I would get here in the time frame that I have. So it's, I'm still a little googly-eyed, I guess you could say, with all of the challenges that there's definitely some challenges and hard times and frustrations that I have, but I do. It's like I was when I was dancing. I wake up in the morning and I actually get to go to a job that I love, and not everybody can say that. So that's always my reminder.
Well, I love it. And so I always think about, this podcast goes out to so many people, not that we're like number one on Spotify or anything, because we're not. But people do listen, and they do pay attention to what's being said. And my curiosity is, because it's inspiration, it's about inspired by. What would you tell a young person who's thinking about dance and their parents? What would you say? Because you're on this side of the fence of it. What would you tell them right now about any apprehensions or concerns about entering the world of dance as a profession?
It's kind of layered, but no dream is too big. Continue to stay open to what that dream could be, and that the road to that dream isn't linear. So, just basing off of my experience, when I was young, and my first dance teacher, I call her, she's my dance mom, Miss Jackie. Shout out to Miss Jackie.
We all have a Miss Jackie, don't we?
She remembers this story, I think, clearer than I do, but I remember it. I remember because she was responsible for helping me see how productions work. So we did a Black History program at church every year, and it literally packed. I mean, we did 3, 4, 5 nights, sold out. And she was a professional dancer, professional theater artist, so she ran rehearsals like that. So we had tech week, we had lights. And I remember calling her one day and saying, how do you do all this stuff? Like, I didn't know I didn't know the term choreography. I didn't know producer. I didn't know director. And I think I was about 13 or 14 years old. And she said, what do you mean? And I said, this stuff, the lighting, telling people what to do. And she said, oh, you mean producing the show? And I said, yes. And I said, I want to do that. I want to be able to do what you do. And then it was from there that she mentored me in that process. And then when I got older, when I moved back to Alabama and danced with Alabama Ballet, she said, all right, here you go. So that was actually my first, being able to produce that Black History program was my first diving into looking at a production as a whole, right? Which is exactly what an artistic director does. You have to not just look at the dancing, but the full artistic product. How are the lights shining on the dancers? Do we have shadows on their face? Is the set looking a little bit off? Are the soft goods wrinkly? Like, do they need to be? You're looking at everything. And a lot of times when you're getting to that point on stage, the dancing already has to be at a certain level, because I'm not even looking at them half the time by the time we're in the theater, because I'm looking at everything else. I'm listening to the orchestra. I'm talking to Neil. You know, we're conversing. Is it too slow? Is it too fast? Is there anything? Oh, that didn't sound quite right. Wow. You know, I'm talking to the stage manager. Hey, that lighting cue call was a little bit late. Can it be earlier? The curtain's too slow or the curtain's too fast. So being able to look at those things, and I tell the dancers this too, while they are my priority and I'm their number one cheerleader, they are a part of a bigger picture that they have to be. I have to have them at a certain level before we even get into the theater, because when I get to the theater, I'm looking at everything else.
Wow. But that's the reason why you're the perfect person for the job. Yeah.
Here's the hoping.
Oh, no, more than that. You're modest. And so, Brandon, I am super excited about where you're going in the future with Dayton Ballet. I'm glad you're now a Daytonian, even though it's by, moving here. You're just an awesome guy. And so thank you for sharing your story with an audience.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's been great.
Totally my pleasure. Always. Now we get to go to dinner and say.
Thank you all.